Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast, where real students are doing real deals in the world of multifamily real estate. I'm Vince Gethings, the owner of the Wheelwell Profits Academy. Listen in as we dive into the journeys of driven individuals who are turning their dreams into reality. These people are just like you, taking action and making things happen. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and if you're ready to take action, check us out at wheelwellprofits.com to learn more about our incredible community. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, one of the co-founders of Jake and Gino, multifamily investor, educator, father, and mentor. Today's guest is Kent Kiess. He began investing in single and multifamily back in 2006, building not just wealth, but communities. His latest venture is his best-selling book, Beyond the Tool Belt, a blueprint for making money while you sleep in the blue-collar world. Welcome to the show, Mr. Kent Kiess. How you doing, brother?
I am fantastic, man. I'm fired up. I'm excited about this, and let's do it, man. Let's talk.
I don't even know where to start, but I am going to start by asking you, could you have seen yourself 5 years write a book?
I've always, when I was teaching, something would happen, or there'd be a story that would happen from the student that, that light bulb that goes off. That's always awesome, fantastic with teachers. And it's like, oh, I got to put that in I got to note that. So when I write my book, but I was just joking. I mean, I'd never, no, that part of it, I would have never thought I would have written a book. And most of it is because of you. You might not know this, but you sent something out last year, and it was about writing blogs and articles and getting things out like that. And I wrote back, oh, I'd love to do that with, let me know, and I'd love to help with that. And you wrote back. I tried to find it today, and I couldn't find it. And you wrote back, and you said, why don't you write a couple blogs, and then we'll think about adding you into that process. And I'm like, well, shit, really? Okay, I'll take that on. So that's when I started writing the book. So I'm like, since I'm doing, if I'm going to do blogs, I might as well just do chapters and then make it into a book.
And more importantly, this is what I'm going to challenge you and the listeners out there. Kent was at our event, our Money Mixer last month with 50 other Jake and Gino students sitting in there. And I challenged him. And actually, I don't even think I challenged him. He actually got up and he pitched his own book. It's amazing, Beyond the Tool Belt. And what was amazing about it was maybe he thought he could never write the book, but I would venture to say a few years ago, you probably would have been comfortable enough to say, buy my book. It is awesome. What was the mind shift to be able to do that? And prove me if I'm wrong. Would you have done that 5 years ago or 3 years ago? Would you have had the confidence or the wherewithal to say, hey, I want you to buy my book? I wrote a best writing book. Now it's a best-selling book. You have to be able to sell and promote yourself. What was the shift? What work did you do to get from point A to where you are today?
Could you say that one more time? The bestseller part?
It's a good feeling, isn't it? It's a lot of work. It is. It's a lot of work from one blog to writing a book that's going to impact thousands of people. And in the process, great. You're going to make money. You're going to market yourself, but you're going to help a ton of people. And years ago, you probably wouldn't have gotten up in front of 50 other multifamily investors and said, hey, would you guys buy my book? I love it. I'd love to see if you guys can promote it for me. What was that shift? What was that work that you had to do to get yourself to that point?
Obviously, it's the mindset, and the book is basically about time, health, and wealth in that order. And say what exactly motivated. You were one of them by saying that, by just doing it. And then, actually, the more obviously the wheels are spinning. But I listened to a podcast, Mike Fallett. He has a publishing company. And I just gave him a call, and man, we just hit it off. And he's like, dude, you got to do this. And that's pretty much what it took. It's just like, okay, well, let's do it then. Because I didn't know I was actually writing the book before I talked to Mike. I was doing it for a couple of years. Just, I get to I have one chapter, and then I come back to it a month later, and it completely changed. And I'm sure you know that. I mean, it's with everybody. You just don't know. Then if you don't sit down and finish and work it all out, it's just hard to do. So with that process, I think the process that Mike has is really good to help me do that, because I had everything in my mind that I wanted to do. I just couldn't put it down in order to make it good, and also I wanted it to help people. That's the book. The book is and I went to Raise Fest a couple of weeks ago, and I took my book and I handed out 50 books for free. And I've had so many people call me and get on a Zoom call and just say, "Dude, you've changed my life. This is a whole nother ballgame." Just the things that I'm like, really? And it's just like, it's like, oh yes, it's like awesome.
You created a business card in and of itself. You may not make any money or any revenue, but you've created credibility, you've created impact, and you've created a business. But let's rewind a little bit. Before you wrote the book, before you got into multifamily, what were you doing, and why did you have this for yourself, an epiphany of getting into multifamily? Because blue collar people are not supposed to be investing in apartments. That's what we've been told, right?
Yep. I was born with a hammer in my hand. My dad was he's a contractor. He owned a concrete business. 10 years old in the summertime, all this is in the book. Get up in the morning, he'd get me up, and I didn't know any better. That's what I thought I was supposed to do, because I was the oldest. I need to make sure this company keeps going, keep doing it, so everybody else is happy. I'm making everybody else happy. And I was fine with it. I didn't have no issues with it. But then times, as construction, as a lot of blue collars understand, there's so many valleys and peaks, especially back then. Business went bad, and we ended up had to sell the company. And my dad went into the manufacturing component of it, where he just went into the factory and worked, which a lot of people do where I'm from. And I know it just crushed him. And then I tried to run the business, and I had the work ethic to do it. I just didn't have the business sense. And over the years, what I've learned obviously more. But so then I became I was a concrete finisher, masonry, and those that are out there, that's physical, intense work. I loved it. It was great. I was in great shape for one. And then once again, up the valleys, up and down. My bosses, they're not complaining, but they've just, it's like, man, it's a lot of work, a lot of money. We do this till I'm 70 years old. I see people around me, at that age. So anyways, end up moving out to Southern California probably 30 years ago. And I decided I wanted to be a coach. I was in basketball and coached basketball for several years at the D1 level, and then also at the high school level. And went from there to teaching, because that's what I had to do. I had to become a teacher in order to be coaching. And complete circle, I taught special ed for 10 years. And then I actually retired from teaching. I didn't want to do it anymore. And then came back a year later. One of my mentors at that time gave me a call and says, "Hey, we're starting a class called something with construction. Would you be interested in teaching?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's exactly what people need." So, it's probably been 17 years ago now that I started that curriculum. Did it all myself, and I basically taught students how to build houses. So it was electrical, plumbing, masonry, framing. We went to contests. We're state champions many years in a row. We went to nationals. It's called Skills USA. Pretty cool what they do. And did that. And I was doing fine. And then all of a sudden, one day, I get this call, or I got an email from administrators saying that they wanted to cut some of my classes. And I'm like, what's going on? So, and education, that's just what happens. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, what the heck? I've done all this work. I've worked my tail off. I put so extra hours into all of this, and boom, it's like, yeah, we're changing. we're changing this. We want to go a different pathway. And I started feeling like lightheaded, and I'm just like, what? And I'm usually in pretty good shape, and I stay pretty healthy. And I'm like, oh my God, am I having a heart attack? And I'm just like, I'm not having a heart attack in front of my kids, in front of my students. It's just not going to happen. So I walked out, and that was the change. Is when I hit that, of course, health, which just happens to most people. I decided that I needed to find something else. And I was kind of at a point where I've peaked, and my brain works in a way where once it gets to a point where I'm satisfied with this, then I need to find something else. I need to be more. I need more creative. So I started looking into that, and my brother and I were sitting on a beach in Virginia, and he says, "Hey, Kent, have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?" And I'm like, "Nope." He says, "You need to read it." So of course I read it, and then that was the change. It's amazing that I was just talking. I swear every conversation, and I know it happens on your show too, because I've watched most of your shows, and almost every time the Purple Bible is mentioned. It's just amazing what that book. And if you haven't read it and you're doing this, shame on you, because you're not doing it. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So when you had that revelation and you're a multifamily and you joined Jake and Gino, what did you need from the community to join as far as learning about multifamily?
Great question. Team. I needed other people to help me. I tried to do it myself. My brother, he was helping me at the time. We actually had some rentals in Cincinnati that he mostly had control of, and he was doing, and he was helping me kind of help with that process. And it was just, and then we ended up selling because it was a good time to sell. And but we wanted to go bigger, and it's just you thought, we could do this. It's not a big deal. But your last, I don't know if it was your last podcast, but I remember you talking to Nick the other day, and you've got to have an underwriter. You have to have a capital raiser. You got to have operations. You got to have an asset manager. You just can't do it yourself. Don't try. It's not going to happen. You might think you're Superman, but that was the biggest reason. And the other reason was I just wanted to get outside my circle and get into a new circle. And we talk about this when we're at your places and other places, and they say, "Oh yeah, I remember you. I met you at this place," and they're like, "Man, it's such a small circle," and it really is. You get outside that small circle, and nobody has a clue what multifamily is. No clue. And it's amazing that the amount of people that I actually see that doesn't have any idea about that. So that is another reason why I got into that. So on that part of it,
I love that. When you joined, you're getting all this knowledge, you're getting the community. When did the book launch? When did you launch your book?
It was in November.
So November
23, and we came into Jake and Gino the January 21st or year 21, I think. 20, yeah, we've been in there for 3 years.
We had our Buy Right boot camp, and I met you out there in Phoenix for the Buy Right boot camp. And what I liked about you, Kent, is you kept putting videos out there. You kept posting videos. You kept sharing videos of yourself. And as I'm looking and reading about your book, you have time, health, and wealth. Why did you put them in that order? And let's talk about that. That's the 3-step framework: buy right, manage right, finance right. You've got time, health, and wealth. Why are they in that order? And let's talk about each of those specifically.
And most of that is my story. The time, you have to understand your time. And that day that I went outside and just sat down and took some deep breaths, and then I decided I need to find a different way of what I'm doing, because teachers in California, they make good money, but obviously expenses are a little higher. But it wasn't satisfying me, and I needed something. That's just, like I said before, that's just the way I am. I need something more. And at that time, I probably wasn't as healthy as I should be. And so I read One Thing. That's what it was. The book, One Thing. And oh my God, it's just like, really? This is what people do? I thought everybody had 6,000 things going on, and you just, I'm like, oh my God. So I read that, and then I started, prioritizing what things I need to have done. And oh my God, that was huge. And it made me sit down and write down, it's in the book, the formula that I use to figure out, is it worth doing? Whatever I'm going to do, is it worth doing? And that basically is all the time that I'm putting in. And people think, well, as a teacher, we work, we think, well, we work 7 to 3 and we get summers off. Well, for one, we don't get paid for the summer. Second, we don't work 7 to 3. We work from 5 in the morning, because you got to drive, takes you an hour and a half to get to work. And then when you come home, you got to grade papers, and you're working until 6 o'clock at night. So you start adding that. And I'm not saying that nobody else does that, but other jobs, which you have to understand, you got to put all that extra time and include that. Even though you're not getting paid for that, you got to include that time. Because if you don't, it's not going to work. But if you include that time, put it into a calculator, and come out with what your pay is per hour, blow your mind. You're going to like, holy crap. Mine was $16 an hour. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm making $16 an hour
to get
doing
stuck
this
in 3 hours worth of traffic. Think about that for a second. That's painful. If you're sitting at home in your underwear, maybe $16 an hour I can do, but you're actually fighting traffic. You're fighting kids. You're getting home, and you're having to do all that work. That's a great way to do it. And I always tell my children, listen, if you want to buy that TV, it's $100, and you make $10 an hour. That TV costs 10 hours of your life. Are you willing to do it? I mean, is it need or a want? If you want it and you want to dedicate 10 hours of your life to buying that article, go ahead and do it. Have an understanding, have clarity on what you're trying to accomplish. And once you have clarity, you can make a logical decision, a rational decision, not an emotional decision. I think Kent became pretty emotional when he saw $16 and like, dude, what the hell? And then for emotion, he goes to logic. He's like, I got to do something else. This is not worth doing here.
So the time, so that's where you got to get your mindset set, because if you don't do that, nothing's going to change. So that's why the first thing, you have to do that. If you don't do that, nothing is going to change, because you don't see it yourself. You don't see how much you're killing yourself, and how much time you're taking away from others, especially your family, if you have a family. I mean, that's just, it's heartbreaking that you're working that amount of money, and really, so yeah. And maybe it might be different for beginners, because they're probably making, now it's up to $20, $22, I think, is minimum wage. But still, you're going to get to a point where, and I'm seeing it. I mean, I'm at an age where I'm seeing my friends, they're done, but they got another 10, 15 years. So read my book, man.
So you got time, health, and wealth. If I had to ask you to describe and define what wealth means, because wealth is different to everybody, what would it mean to you?
Wealth is, for me, to be able to spend time with my family, which is my wife. That's all. That's all it is. And now, would it be great if I can increase that and have more time with my family? Yes, but right now my kids are still in high school, so I'm, the 6 hours that they're somewhere else, they're doing that. So yeah, I'm good. We're good where we're at. Of course, we want to increase our wealth, generational wealth. And I want the kids involved too. So you say it all the time. It goes back to the why. And my why is my family. I mean, you asked me that 35 years ago, and I didn't even want to get married. So, it changes. Obviously, your why changes, which is I didn't understand that you could do that. It's weird how my mind thinks. It's like, Well, I came up very under a rule-stricken place, which is fine, but sometimes it's not, because then you're thinking there's a rule to this, and you got to follow this, follow this, follow this. And for some reason, I guess I just thought that's what I had to do, because that's what I learned. It was that generational traditions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love that.
So the wealth is, it is different for everybody, but your wealth is your why.
Mm-hmm. I like that. When you're looking at multifamily and you're looking at a deals, let's talk about the buy rate, because I know right now you've got 2 deals right now that you're raising funds for, the 506Bs. But what are you looking specifically for in a deal if you want to purchase that deal? What's your buy rate criteria?
So, of course, we're looking for the numbers to work for our investors, and it's 15% higher in the IRR, and it's cash on cash. We're kind of in different spots. We're in Phoenix, Tucson, and then we're also in the Ohio area, just because of my background and being in that area, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. Those two are freaking identical. What's going on there? But it's a play. It's a cool play, because Phoenix is more of an equity play for investors. That some investors like that play, and they also have investors that like the cash on cash play, which is the Columbus and Kansas City play. So our buy right is kind of that. We're looking to see what our investors are interested in, and we talk to them, and we want to hear on their side what they feel they're comfortable with. And then we try to take that into consideration when we're buying. So we want the numbers to work on that part of it, and we definitely look in, obviously seller financing, but we want to one deal that we really liked is if you can change and add units to these properties. I mean, there's one that we have 17 units. That's a 4-bedroom. And we can change it to a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and a 1-bedroom bath. I mean, right there. I mean, and everything's perfect. The plumbing's in the right place. All we gotta do is stick a wall in a hallway and add some sheeting for your fire code on each side of the units, and we're golden. And not much expense. So that right there in itself is an increase, and investors like to see that. So I know I didn't get too much in all the numbers, but that's pretty much what we look for. So, if it works, if the underwriting works, and that's my partner, Rick, he's fantastic. He's fantastic. And talking about a team, that's what he does. He's doing a lot of the underwriting. He actually does almost all the underwriting, and figure out what deals we like.
It's interesting because the deal you talked about the 17 units, and it's on average, you're increasing them $500 per unit. That's around $8,000 or $9,000 a month. You multiply that by 12, you're looking at $80,000 to $90,000, almost $100,000. And if it's a 5 cap, at a 10 cap, it's $1 million. At a 5 cap, it's $2 million. So if you're looking at a 6 to 7 cap, you're looking at $1.5 million in value just by thinking outside the box. And it's interesting. That's what's amazing about real estate. But this question may be a little challenging for you, because I was thinking about it. You joined in 2021, and you had the strength and the persistence to go through that, because Phoenix has been crazy for the last 2 years. Deal flow has not been amazing. And the deals that were around, you stayed away. And it's really good that you did make those mistakes. And you could have been saying to yourself, well, why aren't I finding deals? What made you stay away from deals? I always say, you must have heard me say this several times, no deal is better than a bad deal. But it's hard, because you have the shiny object, you have the get-there-itis, you're on Instagram, everyone's closing deals except for Kent and Gino. What's going on here? Why aren't I closing deals? And how did you stay away up until now? Because I've seen both deals that you have right now, and both of those deals are very good deals. How did you stay away, or how did you limit your mistakes in these last couple of years?
We would talk, we would discuss, numbers would come back, and what can we move this here, move that there? And then obviously Bill, fantastic coach on that side of it. And that was, and that's what I looked for. That's why I loved Rick, because he knew the numbers, he knew where we need to be. And we go back at each other back and forth. for that, come on, man, we got it. And as me, let's get this deal, make it work. But he didn't, which it was like you just said. Now we look back and now we're seeing we've went back to our deals because we kept track of every deal we write or that we look at, and we have I think we're up to like 550 deals that we've looked at over the last 3.5 years, and we go back to those deals that have been sold, and guess what? They're popping up. They're in trouble because we can pull that information, and they're in trouble. That's the bridge loan. We know all about that, and we're just like, man, we're glad we didn't do that because yes, you're right. Phoenix obviously is getting a bad rap because percentage is coming down, but my God, it was at 17% at one time. Of course, it's going to come down, but it's still way above the average anywhere else. So, yeah. Rick was a big part of that. And I think obviously we both work well together because I know the construction side, the due diligence. He's the boots on the ground in Phoenix because I'm out here in Southern California. He can go do a video. I can look at it. I go, nope, dude, no, run away. We're done. So, or, we can look in to see what's happening, what's going on, the questions that I can ask the broker, things like that. So, and it's been really good because we've learned off each other. We've learned each other's weaknesses and become stronger by having each other together. So
I love that.
And we got a surprise coming. Well, it's a surprise, but we've got another partner where he's been helping us quite a bit, but we're adding on that we're gonna throw out there here in a couple of weeks. So you know who he is, but he's solid. He's good. So
that's great. If I'm listening to this, last question before we wrap up, and might be a challenging one for you. You may say, hey, because everyone says something differently. But if I'm listening to this and I want to get into multifamily, I may be doing some single family homes. I may be a teacher. I may be a fireman. I may be somebody who is a small business owner. I may be an attorney. I mean, what should I be doing right now to get into the multifamily game? Great answer. I love that. You see that? 3 years ago, you wouldn't have done that, folks. He would have been like, now he's pitching himself. That's what I like. That's right there.
I don't know. I mean, obviously we've taught, the Purple Book, read that. This would be the second book to read. But I do break it down in the book. What your question you just asked is pretty much broken down in the book. But I will say, and I know this is a whole nother podcast, but the one thing that really helped us, my family, create our wealth and me to get out of the W-2 and retire from that part of it, was having whole life insurance. Using that as the IBC, infinite banking concept, using that. And that's what, and we still use it. Personally, we own like 5 or 6 properties on the side that are single family, but that's money coming in. That's mailbox money on that. So that was, and I know you talk about it all the time, but that was a big. If I had extra money and I was young, that's the first place I would put it. First place, because 2 days later I can pull it back out and use it somewhere else. As long as you have the right policy. There's a lot of them out there you got to be careful with, but yes, that would be the first, instead of putting in and I know we're running out of time, but man, when you go in and you get a job and you're young and you get a job, don't go rushing in to sign in for the 401k or even in the pension. Sometimes in the blue collar unions you have to sign up, but you can put extra money in. Call me and we'll talk.
I love that. Listen, before you give out your contact information, we do have somebody in the Jake and Gino community that does infinite banking policies. They know how to structure them properly. Listen, I have 6 children. All 6 of my kids have a policy, whole life policy. I'm the beneficiary. When I decide to give it to them and I deem them worthy, it's obviously for them. But I can use the money right now. My wife has got a policy. I've got a policy, and it's a savings account. It's out of the system. It's not correlated to anything else. I bought my first couple of duplexes with my first whole life policy. It never would have happened. If it was in the system, I wouldn't have been intelligent enough to be able to pull it out in a smart way or even put it into a self-directed. But I couldn't have done that because I was self-managing. So there's so many restrictions. There's so many rules, and they changed the game. So, I mean, I think that is the first time on the Movers and Shakers show that somebody has said, get into whole life. And listen, I'm an advocate of it. I think it's for everybody if you understand what the uses are. That's the thing. It's the dual asset strategy. And if you understand how to use the hammer, you're going to know how to hit the nail, right? Not everything is a nail, but you understand the concept, and it's important. It's just another asset. All you're trying to do to accumulate wealth is to accumulate assets, and that's an amazing asset. Businesses are other assets. I think real estate is another asset. If you want to get into stocks and bonds and crypto, that's another form of assets. But we focus mainly on whole life, businesses, and real estate, and that's what we love. Kent, how can the listeners get a hold of you?
Give me a call, 562-209-3159. We've got an awesome webpage. It's Casey-investments with an S.com. And all my information's on there. And reach out and I love to talk. So would love to get what you have to say and go from there.
And where can they get the book?
They can actually go to the webpage. They can go to Amazon. I'm actually working on taking it off of Amazon and we're going to sell it ourselves. But they can go to beyondthetoolbelt.com.
Awesome.
So they can get it from there. Just type in Kent Kiess in Google and my name comes up. Yeah.
That's
but,
awesome.
I want to say one thing, Gino, is that thank you for what you've done for us and our family. And Jake and Gino has been a huge component of making this work. And anybody that's listening to this and out there, definitely, give a call, find out some information because they know what they're doing. They have it down, and we love them to death. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Kent. And this is going to be a really fun wrap up because your story is very similar to mine. You were in the concrete construction business with your dad when you were 10 years old. I remember vividly at the age of 8 going to work at my dad's restaurant. So we're both working. We're both head of the households. We're the oldest ones. It seems as if that's what we need to do. We need to support our families. And at some point, things get tough. Things get challenging in small businesses, and we go through the same rocky situations as you did. Fortunately for us, we didn't lose the restaurant. We ended up buying one for our own family. But it seemed like you went into the construction industry because that's what Pops did. Then you ended up going into teaching. And it's always about serving others. I think that's where the passion is for you, serving others and helping to serve others. And then from there, you find the vehicle of multifamily. And this is pretty cool. I wish I had known this sooner. Never too late. I am ready right now. Join Jake and Gino, write a best-selling book. Now you've got 2 deals on your plate right now, and you're continuing to expand and continuing to grow and understanding that time, health, and wealth, the 3-step framework that Kent Kiess has created for himself, and he's leveraging it, and you're able to utilize it in your lives. If you can think of it from that lens, your time is so valuable. Your health is irreplaceable. If you're not healthy, you will not be able to achieve the wealth in your life. Once again, Mr. Kiess, thanks for being on the show, and we will see you soon. Thanks for everybody being on the show. Yes, go out there and buy the book. Thanks, Kent.
Thanks, buddy.